I'm here this morning with Michelle Wise, and she is Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services for the Romoland School District. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Doug.
We wanted to give our viewers, listeners, readers, and probably most especially the parents of children in the Romoland School District a little more information about how the whole distance learning program is going to go. So maybe you could start out with talking about how it's going to be different from what happened last spring, because I know that was confusing and disappointing for some people. This is going to be much different, right?
Absolutely. Um, Last spring, it was thrust upon everybody quickly. And so districts across our state, were making adjustments on the fly. Now we've had time for planning. Our state legislature has also put out SB 98 that's given some guidance as well for virtual learning. So you'll see daily live instruction, access to the teacher daily, attendance tracking daily with weekly engagement reports. In Romoland, we even purchased more Chromebooks. We already had a 3-to-1 in primary grades with Chromebook, to student ratio, and 1-to-1 in 3rd grade through 8th grade. But now we have 1-to-1 across all grade levels. And we also purchased more hotspots for families in need. There will definitely be assessment of learning and grading. Whereas if you recollect last spring, grading, was frozen. There was this hold harmless kind of language from our state. But now there will be, real-time grading, if you will. Consistent use in Romoland of Google Classroom across all our classrooms. That is our learning management system. All teachers have participated in professional development for virtual teaching and learning. So that's been standardized as well. And we have a new student information system, ARIES, with an improved parent portal for communication with parents about academic progress, grades, and attendance. And we have a new instructional tool, Nearpod, which will increase instructional engagement, content, and progress monitoring. So with having the months to plan and put some things in place for virtual learning this fall, we're very excited about this.
Good. So school starts on Thursday. Have all the students already picked up Chromebooks, been issued Chromebooks? How does that work?
It's happening as we speak, right? These first 3 days of this week are very important for all our deployment, if you will, of Chromebooks, hotspots, and outreach through emails and phone calls to parents.
Okay. And you talked about hotspots. So you're making accommodations so no one goes without an internet connection. Is that right?
Correct. And so most of our families, because we've surveyed our families, have access to in-home Wi-Fi. But for families that don't have that, we want to make sure that we have the hotspots available for them as needed. There are a few locations in Menifee or Romoland, Homeland, that truly have no connectivity. Even with a hotspot, it doesn't work. It's that, I don't know if I'm saying
like
this
a dead
correctly,
zone kind of.
cell tower kind of connectivity, dead zone. And we will make one-on-one accommodations with those families however is needed. If it's a paper packet and a phone call from the teacher to the family to make that connection and instruction happen, we will individualize and tailor that for a family that truly lives in that connectivity dead zone.
Okay, so what does the daily schedule look like? Are the students supposed to be signed on at a certain time that they would normally be in a classroom?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. Teachers will provide that daily live virtual instruction approximately 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. every day. We call that like before lunchtime, right? That's
Right.
that daily live interaction with the teacher, the instruction, as well as peer-to-peer student interaction. Then lunchtime, and then in the afternoon after lunchtime, the teacher offers office hours and students are doing their independent work and assignments in their Google Classroom and can reach out to the teacher through the office hours during that afternoon window about 12:30 to 2:30 each day.
Okay. So if something happened and a student couldn't get signed on in the morning for the live session, uh, they can go on later in the day and still watch it and complete the work?
They can complete their work and assignments and touch base with that teacher and still document their attendance by completing their work.
Okay. And if they are on the live session and the teacher is speaking live to the students and somebody has a question, is there a system like they make a comment or raise their hand or something to ask a question right then?
Yes, all that's available in Google Classroom, and we also have a new tool I mentioned, Nearpod, which
Mhm.
really allows for um, interactive live virtual instruction, where
Okay.
teacher can progress monitor and check for students' understanding throughout the lesson as well.
Will this be reevaluated at certain times? I know it's all going to depend on the county health and state health guidelines, but if things
Right.
start looking better, is there a certain point where you say, let's take a look at this and maybe offer people the opportunity to go to a hybrid or something more than that?
We spent the summer planning for 3 models of instruction: virtual, hybrid, and traditional, and gave all our families the option of choosing those three
Mhm.
from those three, as well as with teaching assignments. So teachers have already been given their assignment of virtual, hybrid, or traditional, so that when we can move beyond the virtual environment, um, based on right state and local health guidelines, then
Right.
we have our plans in place and board approved already to move into that.
Do you have resources to help students with the emotional side of things and the feeling of being maybe kind of disconnected and stuck at home? Are there counselors or people they can talk to kind of deal with that side of it?
Absolutely. In Romoland, we are very proud to invest in full-time school counselors for each of our schools. So all our elementary schools have a full-time counselor, and our middle school has 2 full-time counselors. We also have 2 full-time mental health, school-based mental health therapists available for the students and families in our district. And we have 4 school psychologists. So that group has already met and planned their systematic ways to support students through telehealth therapy and services. Um, our counselors all have Google Classrooms. They put out resources, they connect with their students, they teach lessons to all the classrooms, even in a virtual environment. And um, also, they'll be doing professional development for staff for like trauma and trauma-informed instruction, PTSD, anxiety, and other issues, stress, chronic stress, that have been a part of everyone's lives, but more so amplified during this COVID-19 time.
Right.
We have a really great counseling and mental health support staff.
Now, what about special needs students? I know there's been concern expressed about that, and some people saying that there's just no effective way to reach students and interact with them solely through the internet. How do you solve that problem?
Well, we have plans. All our special ed staff, teachers and administrators are working together right now as part of IEP teams with parents and students to update IEPs for this environment, and to make sure kids get their services in this environment. Our case carriers, so our special ed teachers, they offer the services one-on-one and in small group through the virtual environment, and also have office hours to be available to the students and the parents. So we're taking the steps we need to provide the instruction in the virtual environment.
Okay. And what was the reaction of teachers when it finally came down to they were going to have to do this totally remotely? Were there some that weren't as comfortable with it, that were kind of reluctant, or what's been the attitude of teachers?
It's been the attitude of teachers in Romoland is fantastic. We worked together all summer. So our bargaining unit president for the teachers union was a part of all our committees, for reopening the safety committee, the instructional models committee. We had multiple negotiation sessions about schedules and everything. And it was a very positive process with a lot of teacher input. We surveyed teachers, the union surveyed teachers, to get their input on how to go about this. So we had multiple committees and really worked all summer for this. So another component is that for the past 6 years, Romoland has had Chromebooks. We've invested in one-on-one Chromebooks in grades 3 through 8 and the 3-to-1 in the primary grades. So staff here has a lot of familiarity with teaching with use of the Chromebooks, Google Classroom, personalizing learning for students. We've had instructional coaches who provided professional development in that work for 6 years. So there has been a lot of support in professional development. So I'd say we're positioned in a great spot for our staff to feel more comfortable going into this than maybe, larger districts or other districts out there in California.
Okay, good. Have you heard much from parents about how they are going to handle this challenge? Of course, you tend to hear the negative more than the positive, but families where both parents work and they're trying to figure out how they're going to do this. And then I've heard from some families that are already kind of making plans to help each other out, like, somebody who's not working, maybe help their neighbor's child. Have you heard things like that or have any advice for parents who are kind of freaking out?
Yeah, well, right. Community collaboration and then them getting to know their neighbors and supporting each other and really connecting with the school. Our school principals do a fantastic job of communicating and outreach and keeping parents up to date with information. And our schools, want to be a support for families and connect people. So I really encourage that open, positive dialogue. And we also have a school engagement and foster youth liaison, and she can help connect families to resources of all kinds. We've also prepared a resource page for families from everything from childcare to food to mental health services to health services, and that's on our district website as well.
What would you say to the parents of kindergartners, first graders who are afraid that their child can't figure this out? It's been my experience with my own grandchildren that they're a lot more savvy on this electronic stuff than I am. So do you feel confident that those young children can benefit from this?
I agree with your statement about the young children being more savvy these days with electronics. I think they know how to scroll like on phone pictures when they're
Right.
12 months old, just what I've seen. But kindergartners, they're going to be okay, and they're going to learn, and they're going to meet, other kids through this environment. For some kindergartners, it's going to be a more safe environment because some kids get really panicked about starting the school year as little kinders, and they're
True.
crying to leave their parents. So I'm not saying that's for everyone, but there are some kids where this will almost be more comfortable to still be in their home environment. But I know it doesn't work for everyone. We're all doing the best we can, and I know that parents want their kids in classes soon, and so
I
just
haven't
stay
seen.
positive about it, I guess would be my advice,
Right,
and
right.
engage and get to know the teachers. Our teachers put out fun activities too, and in their virtual classrooms, everything from like, that relationship building with virtual scavenger hunts and games and sharing time. And so the primary teachers, those teaching the kinders, really work to make it fun and relationship building.
Now, I've been in on a lot of Zoom meetings where you have large groups of people and you see a kind of a maze of faces on the screen. Is that what the young children will see? Will they actually see the faces of others in their classroom to kind of make them feel more like part of a group?
Yes, yes, they will. Hmm.
Okay. I think that will be a positive thing for them. And some of the administrators I've talked to have wanted to make the point to parents that this is not homeschooling in the traditional sense where a lot or most of the burden is on them. The teachers are totally in charge of this, and the parents, yes, they have to supervise, but they don't have to feel like they're the teacher, correct?
That is correct. That's homeschooling is where the parent's doing the teaching, parent and teacher, but in this case, the teacher is the teacher.
Right. So if say the parent comes home from work and they want to check what the student has done that day, and they see that the student is struggling or had questions or was afraid to ask the teacher or whatever, there's a system for the parent to email the teacher directly and express concerns or ask questions.
Absolutely. And there is that expectation too that teachers will have that regular outreach with the parents and guardians, not just the students, to
Right.
keep that communication line open. That's extremely important during this time. And schools and teachers use different programs for that. Class Dojo or
Right.
Remind, but I'm finding Class Dojo seems to be a fan favorite. Mhm.
Oh, okay. Anything that we haven't covered? Any topics that we need to mention to folks?
Support for English learners, students learning English as a second language. There is daily English language development, and teachers who have English learners in their class will offer daily English language development. And, the instruction will be monitored by site administrators, school principals and assistant principals, and they'll even be doing virtual classroom walkthroughs to give teachers feedback about their virtual instruction.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Michelle, for coming on and helping to explain this to parents, and hopefully students will be watching it as well. And they've got just a day or two to get ready, and it'll be interesting for all of us. I know it'll be a challenge, but I appreciate the hard work that you and your staff and all the teachers have put in. And good luck this school year.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it. Thanks for the
All right.
time.